Hello and welcome to Living by Numbers. If you are new here, I am so glad you're here. And if you've been here before, welcome back. We are in a new energy, and it's the energy of May, which is six energy in numerology. And so I want to do just a quick grounding before we dive into what's coming down the pipe for us in this fifth month of the year, because we are still in a one energy or 10 energy universal year for us all year long in 2026. And so, what I want to ask you is I have named 2026 the year of the new agreements because it is a 10 energy year. It's like we've up leveled. So if you haven't watched the 2026 forecast, I urge you to go back and watch that first because it will give you a lot more context about what's happening right now and what's been happening since January and what's happening in September, which is when I feel like this new year is really going to be the true new year. And so I'm really curious if you have been thinking about what your agreements have been and what your new agreements want to be. How's that landing for you this year? This six energy in a 1 year is going to be very specific for us as women who have spent their whole lives giving and are at this point where you're like, this doesn't feel very balanced because the six energy is all about balance and harmony. So let's debrief uh, April 1st before we dive into May's energy because it is going to be affecting May's energy. So our April debrief, the five energy was about freedom, freedom through discipline. So, and it was freedom through discipline because there was a very strong element in there of four energy and asking us to create stability. And that five energy was asking us to create that stability with discipline so that we can create the freedom that we want. So, last month was a bit of exploration, adventure, pattern disruption. I don't know if you felt that, but I felt it all month long of this like I was just like craving a dopamine hit of some sort. I didn't know what it needed to be, but I just wanted a change. I wanted a pattern disrupt. I wanted activation. And if you've been feeling that, you will have noticed that it felt very restless. So I'm curious how that restlessness showed up for you and how you, if you'd listened to the podcast, how you kind of used the energy of five, that adventurous, that wild woman energy, that freedom loving energy, like don't cage me in, freedom or die kind of energy. So for me, April definitely brought around some pattern disrupt, but not in a really, it didn't feel super disruptful. To me, I was experiencing it in feeling this restlessness, wanting a pattern disrupt, wanting some sort of shift to happen and not really knowing how it's going to come about or kind of what the most aligned one was. So here's the thing, that five energy is really just pointing to the fact that you're not the same person that you were 9 years ago or even 5 or 6 years ago. And so what is happening for us now in this one energy year is the big question is, what do I want? After years of, especially a lot of people that follow me have been in caregiving roles in their careers. They're the caregivers in their own personal life. And so there's this awakening that's happening this year for us to make choices, to look back and decide what wasn't working. And now it's time to decide, what do we want? And this year is about exploring those aspects of what we want. And we're doing that through numerology, which is the fun part. We can kind of name it with numerology. And so, for me, I definitely feel like I am not the same person I was even like from like 2019. There's a meme going around where there's two women talking to each other and they're like both in an intense conversation. And one of them says me in 2019 and the other one says me in 2026. And I have honestly have never related more to a meme. And the girl in 2026 was like couldn't the facial expression was like she just couldn't believe it. And the girl in 29 the girl sorry, the other way around. And the girl in 2019 couldn't believe it. The woman in 2026 was just like, yeah, girl, buckle up. So there is lots of this energy about what do I want as me, not as a mom, not as an entrepreneur, not as a service provider to my clients, not as a wife, not as a daughter. And so, this could be labeled maybe as a midlife crisis, maybe. But I had a conversation with a girlfriend the other day, and she was laughed and said, "Oh, maybe we're just having a midlife crisis." And I thought about it, and I'm like, no, this is a midlife awakening. And the numerology is really just whether you're in midlife or not. There is an awakening happening right now, and that is what that one energy is doing all year long. So the five energy that happened in April was meant to, yes, make us feel really restless and uncomfortable and like like searching for something that is activating me, you, the individual. So the five energy definitely asks that question very loudly. It's supposed to. It's supposed to be very activating. So a couple of things that happened for me in April that was definitely five energy was I went to a woman's horsemanship circle, which was so beautiful. And there was somatic work, some gentle yoga, and the most impactful part of that piece was working with horses. Now, I have no experience working with horses. I think the last time I did a trail ride with a horse, I was like early teens. And so when I looked at this offering that came up across my Facebook page, it's local. I've never heard of the place before because I'm kind of not in the horsey world, I guess. I don't know. But I had been all month, I'm like, I'm looking for something different. And this came across my Facebook feed and it just felt right. So I was listening to those intuitive hits about what feels disruptive in a right way. So that day was so beautiful and it was such a gift because I got to experience after a very chaotic 5, 6 years kind of a sense of calm kind of and real in relation to this really big animal. So it had to do with about feeling calm and having boundaries. Like this is my space. This is your space, horsey. So and we did it without drama. She showed us how to our facilitator showed us how to do that without drama. So that felt like a whole little beautiful lesson wrapped up in there about activation, five energy, but also about what's coming next in May with calm, boundaried when you're feeling uncomfortable. The other thing that I experienced was spring camping on the west coast of Vancouver Island. It's still chilly, but my husband and I got out camping on the last weekend and we went exploring for waterfalls, hiking, just sitting by the ocean, listening to life, unconnected life, but very, very deeply connected. So being in nature, hiking, having that feeling, that adventure was very five energy. The other aspect that was supportive of me last month was I got completely caught up on all my bookkeeping. Now, for those of you that are entrepreneurs, know what a monkey on your back your bookkeeping is. And especially if you don't have a bookkeeper that is consistent or doesn't communicate enough with you, uh, you can just kind of have this nagging sensation that things are undone. You don't really know what's going on with your money. Um, it's like a financial fog. And so that last month, five energy was that freedom through discipline. I just wanted to be done with it and clear it up, and I got all caught up with everything that I needed to do. So what I what that was doing was that freedom through discipline, the discipline to sit and get my all my bookkeeping done, and I got caught up in all my taxes. Um, was that it was so calming for my nervous system. So that calmness is my freedom. So you see how those things work. So let's get into May. When we add up May, so we're in the fifth month, 2026. We add up those digits, 5 plus 2 plus 2 plus 6, and we come up to 15. And then we reduce the 1 and the 5 and we get 6. So that's the energy, the universal energy of the month all over the planet. So, yes, we can just dive into 6, but I like to split it up a little bit to talk about the 15, the 1 and the 5 that's making the 6, because those two numbers, the 1 and the 5, give us more information about how the 6 will play out, or how we want the 6 to play out, or how we need the 6 to play out. So, of course, the 1 is self, and it's baked into this 110 energy year. So again, we've got this main theme this year about getting super clear with self. Now, this month is getting super clear with self. That's the 1 plus the 5, which we're still working with last month's energy, freedom through discipline. Self with freedom through discipline is how we get to this balanced 6. This is going to flavor our emotions. This is going to flavor our relationship. This is going to flavor our careers and our business. And this is going to flavor how we see and look and co-create with money. Now, really feel like, I mean, all the numbers are interesting and all the numbers have really impactful gifts to give us. But the 6 energy, particularly to my audience of caregivers that have made a career out of caregiving, um, and all of the like, this 6 energy is the caregiver archetype. So you're going to be feeling things about your boundaries. The 6 is about love. It's about beauty. It's about making people feel good. My mentor, Megan Alton, who trained me and certified me in numerology, she always called it like it's the 6 is like the mama with a warm blankie and a hot cup of cocoa. Like it's the mama we always wanted. That if you can think about that as the archetype of 6, that's 6. It's literally wired to nurture, which is why we need to really watch it. Because for most women, especially women like myself who've built careers out of caregiving, that is just part of my nature to be a caregiver. Um, the low vibration of 6 will be very, very familiar. Overgiving, overcaring, running on empty until, and then running on empty and literally calling it love. I'm going to let that land because I know many of you have run your life like this, like I have. So this month, with this 1-5 equaling the 6 energy, is asking who are you giving your love to? And what are you giving it from? That's the balance. Who are you giving it to, and what are you giving from? All right. So with the 2026, as we entered in the new year, this new agreement energy. This is about new patterns, new choices, a new self that is starting to emerge. And that's what this manifestation cycle is from January, is this emergence of this new self. So I've had a lot of conversations with women about this idea of the new agreement, and it literally like blows their mind once they see it, once they see all the places, all the little places, all the big places where they are ready to write a new agreement because, and it's almost like it never occurred to them that they get to write a new agreement. So, with the 6 energy, the old agreement is saying, I am going to give until I'm empty and I'm going to call it love. This new agreement is not like that at all. It is about I serve from overflow. I care deeply and I have limits. That's really, really big for many, many of us. The one energy in 2026, as well as that one energy in every single month this year, is saying to us, I am the priority. And the six is actually saying, well, okay, prove it. So this is going to be one of those places where expect to have situations come up, opportunities come up to have difficult conversations or to react to people in a different way that serves your needs first so that you can pour from an empty cup. Because it's really interesting once that dynamic changes, once you start serving yourself first, your needs first, and that can be really hard to even identify them because you have put everybody else first for so long. It's just habit to not think about what you want. So it may take time and space to be able to actually listen to self about what self wants. Because when everybody is grabbing at you, everyone wants a piece of you, and not necessarily in a really, doesn't seem like in a bad way, but if you're a mom, your kids are going to constantly be needing stuff. If you're a wife, your husband or partner will, they need things from you. You know, if you're a daughter, your parents are still alive and there's needs there. So we're just so used to not paying attention to our needs, making sure everybody else is okay, emotionally safe, physically safe, fed, watered, put to bed, that it's literally like a chronic um, dis-ease in so many people in terms of just they've got nothing left for themselves. So let's talk about the high vibration of six so that we can identify it easier. A, when we see it, and B, when we feel it, and C, when we know it's a better choice for us. So the high vibe of six is nurturing from a full cup. This is not obligation energy. This is also that this is not this is also about recognizing when you are feeling a little niggling fear of disappointing people or somebody. All right. That's a sneaky one. That fear of disappointing some, especially if you've been doing the thing, if you've been supporting the people and you've got to pull back a little. That is a huge worry. I get it. High vibe of six, community that is actually reciprocal. So you give and you actually receive. So the six energy can very much be a disruptor of relationships that are not healthy because we sometimes tend to get into these relationships and patterns that work while they work and while you're not really aware until you're aware. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So, boundaries that feel loving, not defensive. Again, that's that when you start sensing and worrying about disappointing somebody or um, like, oh, they might not approve or they might not like it. And if you feel like you want to change what you need to say, that's the flag in the play. So, you should be able to have healthy boundaries for self and be able to say, I want to do things for myself, and that is okay for other people. It's okay. It should be okay for you to say, no, I can't do that right now. High vibe of six is creating beauty. Many ruling number sixes. So if you add up the digits of your birth date, all singularly, and then reduce it to, and if it comes to a six, your life path, your ruling number, your main theme in your life, one of them is about balance, harmony, and beauty, because beauty is part of the six. So if you are a ruling number six, I kind of suspect that you have that you like nice things, that you have a beautiful home. Like it doesn't, I don't mean like an expensive home, but whatever you do, you make your space look beautiful. You make people feel beautiful. There's a lot of ruling number sixes in the beauty industry. Same with the creative industry, graphic design. It's like making things pretty, making things beautiful. Even in your relationship, that's that bit of whimsy. That's very six energy. Um, Showing up for others because you want to, not because you're afraid if you don't, something might happen. That's high vibration. Healing. Healing is six energy. It's the most healing number in numerology, and we can literally let the six energy heal us this month. I've lately been doing meditations and calling in my guides and my dad, because he's part of my new divine spirit family. He sometimes doesn't like he's there, he doesn't really know what to do, but he's there and he thinks it's kind of cool. But lately I've been asking my guides in meditation to put their hands on me, their hands, for a healing. And so maybe try that next time you're doing a little meditation. If you're like, what should I do in meditation? Ask for healing from your guides. Now, a more little practical piece, like business piece, revenue coming from relationships. So those are your referral flows. Um, that's high vibration. So if you don't have strong referrals, then maybe this month is one of those months to um, see how you can nurture that aspect of your business. All right, let's talk about low vibration of the six, overgiving until resentment hits. And this kind of overgiving can sometimes sneakily be called selflessness, but it's not. It is what it is. It's overgiving to the point where you can't take it anymore. Taking on other people's emotional weight, or if you're a mom, managing other people's emotional capabilities or lack of capabilities, that's huge. It's just managing everybody's like nervous systems. It feels like we do as parents. A martyrdom, I do everything but nobody notices. Part of that is because, yeah, it's a little sick hit of dopamine as a giver. You're like, yes, I give so much, and but it can be a little bit twisted and you can turn into that like martyr energy. Guilt-driven generosity is a hard no. Let's not do that for six. Another low vibration is neglecting your own needs while tending to everybody else's. Yes, I get it that there are some phases of our lives where it's just non-negotiable. Last spring, all the way into late fall, I had two sick parents. My dad passed in June. We had to get my stepmom into long-term care. Finally got her there in November. Um, there was other things going on in my life, but like I had a responsibility and I was shared with my sister, but it just had to be done. That's not what we're talking about here. Neglecting your own needs, I'm talking on the regular. So, if you haven't thought about your own needs, that's the first step. Like, what do I need? And sometimes the easiest place to look at that is is kind of where the resentment is sitting. People pleasing that masquerades as being a good person. Um, we do that out of fear until our confidence can kind of take over and feel a little bit more grounded. And watch for exhaustion that looks like virtue, like that depletion that looks like devotion. Again, sometimes we have to go through phases. So like the phase that I had to go through last year, it was 6 months long. And I very much recognized it was depletion. Um, and it was part of devotion, but I also recognized that I needed to be very, very particular and very intentional about nurturing myself back to health and healing myself back to energetic, emotional, physical health. All right, I've got a couple of different areas that I wanted to share with you in terms of like how to identify the six energy and how it's going to show up for you. So the first area I want to talk about is the emotional area. And this month has you questioning what's underneath everything. Am I giving from a place of love or am I giving from a place of fear? Because what's happening is if it's not feeling good to give, it's part of some old patterns. That's really all that we're talking about here. So for the women that have been the literal emotional infrastructure for your relationship, for your family, this month will show you exactly where you're running these old patterns and that they gotta go. And we don't have to beat ourselves up about it. They're simply old patterns. We're breaking cycles and kicking asses, people. Like when we're aware of how we're behaving, how we're feeling, um, how we're putting ourselves out there in the world, then that's how we break these patterns and break these cycles. Uh, don't be surprised if grief comes to the surface because the six energy is the healer. It's the healer of the heart. So if there's any unfinished business that is still lingering, don't be surprised by that. Don't be afraid of it because the grief is the medicine. It's part of healing. And you also may notice emotionally like this tension of being needed and being nurtured or not nurtured. And this is where, try to remember, this is where this new agreement is coming in. Pay attention to where those tension spots are because they don't need to be opposite. But we first need to be able to identify where I'm being needed, where I'm being nourished, and where I'm not being nourished and needed still. And, really, when I think about this situation, it kind of reminds me of that women's circle with the horses about boundaries. The one of the horses was he was a bigger boy, and I said to the facilitator, I'm like, oh, he makes me kind of nervous because I was petting him, and he was moving his body into me, and she said, well, he kind of was getting jealous of another horse that was getting attention, and she's shared with me like you know, tell him you want space, like push his rump out of the way, and nope, that's enough. And this is my space, this is your space, and we're still okay. We're still having a nice time, but it's clear and boundaried when I wasn't feeling comfortable. So um, it really taught me that I can, that it's we can be warm and boundaried. They don't have to be separate. We can hold those two things together. They're contradictions, but they're not really because that is what six energy is. Let's talk about in our life, like relationships and boundaries. Again, I'm gonna kind of beating the drum about over where you're over functioning, identifying where you're over functioning, but this is a huge month for us that have been over functioning in relationships, in our careers, with just kind of with people in general. This this is a new agreement year, and we get to choose. You get to decide that you have needs and that you need them met, and that this is what you're doing in order to have them met. These boundaries don't have to be loud. They're just real, and they can come from that place. They can come from your heart. So I always like to give like little practical action steps for this. So if you have been able to identify like an area where you are over functioning, this month, pick one conversation you've been avoiding and share your truth gently. See what happens. What about career and business? How will a six show up in your career? Like I said, six is referrals when it comes to business and networking. If you are employed, um, that's one of those pieces that is so powerful that we've forgotten about, I think, in the digital era, is just how powerful personal networking is. And I don't mean like going to a networking meeting. We all hate those. I'm talking about building, like nurturing career relationships. And those can last over decades. So, if you're genuinely nurturing to people, May is a time where it pays it forward. So, one place, if you are self-employed, that the low vibration of six can also be showing up is undercharging, um, because it's relational labor, and all of that stuff takes time, and you need to be compensated for it. Um, Practical action for you if you've been giving away your best thinking for free. So this is for you if you're in a career and employed as well. Notice it this month. The six energy will help you see where you're, it's kind of a strong way to say it, but where you're being taken advantage of. It's true. Motherhood and caregiving. If your identity has been wrapped up in this, hello, hi, it's me, Kirsten. This six energy will intensify this push-pull effect. Okay. It'll challenge it, guaranteed. And it doesn't need to, like when I say the word challenge it, that doesn't need to be like a harsh challenge. It's more, you're gonna feel the friction and it's you get to choose how you want to interact with that friction. So, one practical action step for you this month is one non-negotiable act of self-care this month. That doesn't have mean you have to go book yourself a massage. It doesn't even mean you have to have a bath. It means like if you love to read, go get go get a book. If you haven't had time to read anything, go get a book, download one on your Kindle, go to a coffee shop, go to a park, you know, do something that's something yummy and it's time for you and doing something that makes you feel good. So it isn't about rewarding yourself. This should be your baseline. Okay. That might be a really, really new concept for you that that could be your baseline to have like acts of self-care like that on the regular. Okay, I have a new little section that I want to add into the podcasts, and it's because it ties into what happened for me a couple of months ago in terms of my own career. And so I've pretty much been off work a year, still doing some readings here and there, but I have not been teaching anything in business for a year. And it was life. And I also have been looking for something to shift into, something new. I had my experience in the spa business industry for decades, and wellness coaching and supporting wellness businesses. And I just couldn't figure out what the change would be, what the difference would be. And in February, it came to me. It came to me like literally, you could see a light bulb pop open over top of my head. And it came to me out of need. Necessity is the mother of invention. And what I have decided to add into, so I'm still going to be doing my numerology forecasts, still going to be offering numerology readings for career and business, but I've decided to add bookkeeping as a service to my roster of menu, to my menu roster. And that is because I really wanted to work in and with somebody's business to support them in the areas where they don't feel supported at all. And bookkeeping is one of those places. I've met so many women entrepreneurs over the years who, like me, just wanted to go do their thing out in the world, do their magic, and not have to worry about like doing the data entry for bookkeeping. It was just boring, and I would rather have not. And yet, I struggle to find bookkeepers and accountants who, A, had a personality that was warm. I found a bookkeeper who was lovely and warm, but she was very busy and probably shouldn't have said yes to taking on my account because I couldn't get a hold of her. She ghosted me so many times. This was the same story I'd been hearing from colleagues for years. I've had owners come to me asking, "Do you know a good bookkeeper?" And so this light bulb moment came on when a colleague of mine sent me a voice memo, like ranting about how her bookkeeper has ghosted her again. And so I realize I'm like, wait a minute, I'm behind in my own bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is not that hard. I already know like how to do this. I just didn't want to do it. I was avoiding it. I was avoiding the money stuff because I wanted to do the other stuff. So at the end of February, I felt to my core that right next move for me was to uh, take on bookkeeping clients because I know how to do it. I know how to work in other people's business from years of coaching. And I just saw this as a beautiful opportunity layering into as well as with the numerology for their marketing. and their support. So it's kind of like I'm calling it Soul CFO because that's what it feels like. And Soul COO and Soul CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Operating Officer. So that is where what I'm going to be busy doing with my days going forward. And so, what I wanted to do is include this little feature aspect into the podcast called the money thread, because there's this money thread that seems to go through all of us, as particularly as women entrepreneurs, that we have this really delicate relationship with money. And yet, and we have often avoided it, yet it is the principle still applies of the obstacle is the way. So by me deciding that the obstacle is the way, clear, I'm just going to do my own books. I'm going to take on bookkeeping of some of the clients I already have. They're like thrilled beyond thrilled and move forward with this concept. And so keep looking for the money thread because it will be woven into the podcast and into my content going forward. So even if you don't have a business, this is a relevant conversation. It's about money. It's about our relationship with money and the energy of money. All right. So let's start with six energy and money. So revenue flows through relationships this month. Like I was mentioning earlier, this is about referrals and that paying it back, paying it forward kind of energy. This is not about funnels. I fucking hate funnels. Excuse my French. This is not about cold outreach. This is not launches. I fucking hate launches. These are about your warmest leads that are already in your world. So May is when that kind of stuff can start moving if we nurture it. See, here's the thing. What's underneath this money thread is that women who overgive in their personal lives or have struggle with boundaries in their personal lives will always be struggling with those kinds of boundaries in their business. Always. I've seen it with myself through my career. I've seen it through hundreds of women that I've worked with and spoken with. So, it's this kind of this thing about our relationship with money, and then we tend to undercharge. We don't value ourselves as much. We're not putting ourselves out there for visibility. Again, it's that kind of unworthiness feeling. So it's this kind of similar story, just like different room. We're in the money room. Six energy will show you exactly where that's happening, where you, in terms of your entrepreneurship and being out of alignment with overgiving. So that would look like, you know, if you're a project manager, going beyond scope, doing things that was not in the original agreement, um, letting people add extra work in without charging them for it, discounting without being asked. I remember this at the very beginning as an entrepreneur. I was just feeling so nervous about, like, somebody that had, a pedicure and a manicure and a facial, and they bought product, and I'm looking at their bill, and I'm like, it was my issue with money, not hers, that was creating this tension. And I would kind of willy-nilly give discounts just because I felt uncomfortable. So, those are those ways that we can undermine our own giving, over giving aspects. And that is that six energy. So this month, as far as money, let's have a little question. Um, Not so much a question. So with this new agreement year and our money this month, the six energy money, let's all decide generosity is not a pricing strategy. It's not a growth strategy. And I think most of us that have been in business know this. But for those of you that are new or kind of been at it for a while and kind of wondering why the needle is not moving, take a look at what your patterns have been in terms of pricing and discounting and all of that kind of stuff, that your generosity is might be getting in the way of your actual growth. Um, the other aspect of the sixth energy this month is for those of you that have been avoiding your books, um, numbers want a relationship with you. Your business, you are in a relationship with your business. I've said this for many, many years. Um, and sometimes it's kind of like a toxic partner. Sometimes it's like a loving partner. And if we have not, especially been like, if we've been avoiding the money aspect of our business, you know, that's okay. We're not here to judge. We listen and we don't judge, but we're here also to shake things up this month. Remember, the five is in this month. It's asking you to shake it up, freedom through discipline. So that kind of balance about money, the harmony about your money, this month it will be poking at you. So it's wanting you to it's wanting to show you things so that you can make better decisions. All right. Um, I want to give you a few action things for May, practical, actionable things for May. The first one is the overflow check. Before you say yes to anything, I want you to ask, am I feeling full? Am I feeling depleted? If you have a hard time saying no, a book I recommend often about boundaries is called The Power of a Positive No by William Ury, Ury. Very simple. You probably only have to read half the book to actually get the concept, but it will give you a framework for being able to say an empowered no and not feeling like somebody's going to be mad at you. Number two, audit one relationship where giving is constantly one directional. You know the one. You don't have to end it. I just want you to notice it this month. Okay, just see it really clearly for what it is. All right, number three, do one beautiful, non productive thing for yourself this month. Okay, sixth energy really gets caught up in being productive, which can then feel performative. Okay, uh, get outside at least once this month. We still have that five energy like affecting this month. So still last month's energy still applies. Get out in nature, do something fun, do something adventurous, play, activate your inner child. Um, this is, it's just because six is about balance and harmony, emotionally doesn't mean that we have to forget that this five energy still has a lot of power, and five is very actionable. And so it will help move the six forward, that six energy forward. All right, my friends, May is asking you to give less, but it's asking you to give less so that you can give more to yourself. And I think that is well overdue because most of the time we have been giving from a place of depletion, and we have been giving from a place that it's costing us. Whether it's just our comfort or whether it's costing us stress, either way, it needs to be more balanced. So there's three things that you can do this month if you want to connect with me. And one of those things, if you already haven't had a numerology reading, I really recommend having your blueprint done. And this helps you to understand your energetic code through and through, your high vibration, your low vibration, but also what you're here in this life to do. And what I do find through these readings is a lot of times people are on the right path, but they discover some real interesting tweaks and perspective tweaks that they can make, that it just opens up like a whole new pathway that they can see. So, either a blueprint reading or a path and timing reading. A path and timing reading is more about like looking at what's coming down the pipe over the next 12 months. If you are a female entrepreneur and you need a bookkeeper, whether you haven't been able to find somebody that is consistent, or you're wanting somebody who is kind of more involved in your business support, not just doing the books, but the marketing, the business strategy, then I invite you to book a discovery call with me. 30 minutes, we get to chat about what's going on in your business, what you might need, how we might work together. And I have a fun event coming. It says we're in May right now, and I don't think I have any events, local events here in Sydney, Victoria, but I do have one coming up in June at a local brewery. It might have something to do with tattoos and tarot. So if you're local, stay tuned. I'll be sharing that information when when the people that I'm collaborating with, when they announce that. All right, my friends. Um, I wish you all the nurturing and love and beauty and peace that May's 6 energy can find for you. And I also hope that you have a heck of a lot of fun doing that. All right, we'll see you next time in the Living by Numbers podcast. My name is Kirsten. And if you need to get a hold of me, you can reach me at my email, kirsten@kirstenfoss.com, or any of my social platforms.